Welcome to Just Hair Me Out, a podcast about love, life, and hair. I'm Barbara. I've spent over 38,000 hours coloring hair.
Hi, I'm Demetra, and I've spent over 1,000 weeks with scissors in my hands.
With 50 clients a week in our chairs and 22 years on our feet, doing hair is not our hobby, it's our hustle. We've navigated salon politics and then opened salon suites of our own in 2020. We choose dogs over kids, skinny marks over beer, and we've only fired 3 clients each. Welcome back to Just Hair Me Out. Today we have a special guest, hairstylist extraordinaire, Jeff Ashlock.
Good morning.
Hello. So I've worked with Jeff before, and Jeff has recently opened his own salon. So Jeff, tell us how you started getting into hair.
Well, I was actually kind of born into it. My mom was a hairstylist when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, she went to beauty school in 1967, I believe, and I was born in 1970, and by that time, she didn't want to continue working in the salon because she missed her baby.
Yeah.
So she took me with her to her clients and went to their homes and did their hair in the house, and some of her clients also came to our home as well, so I grew up around it.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So that's how it happened. Plus, we had some other relatives that had salons. I had a great aunt who had a salon in her house, and I was intrigued by it from the time I was a little tot. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened.
All right. And tell us where you first started out once you finished beauty school.
So I first started out at a small salon in my hometown, and I worked there for about 6 months, but it was a fully commissioned salon. You had to have a clientele and be busy. I wasn't getting anything. And my mom encouraged me to go to the mall and apply at JCPenney, which had just expanded, and they were hiring a boatload of people. So they had doubled their size, and I said, I don't want to work in a mall. I don't want to work for a chain. I don't want to do all that. But I looked at their benefit package and things like that they had to offer, and I thought, well, okay, it might be a good stepping stone. So I applied, and I honestly think I got the job because they had never had a guy apply there. Mm-hmm. So I think they did it just to kind of keep it cool and let me on. So I ended up working there for about 10 years.
Wow. It's interesting how that sort of setup is really helpful if you're not in a really big city.
Yeah. It was great because it was the only place at the time that had 401k offerings, insurance, medical, dental, paid vacations, paid time off. And then because it was a department store, we got a clothing discount for clothing that we could wear for work, which was like 40%, plus a regular discount of 15%. So, it was pretty lucrative.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Very smart. And if I recall from our conversations in the past, you really enjoyed your time there, right?
I did. I made some great friends. I was 19 years old when I started there, so I was a kid, and as a lot of us were that were hired at that time. So we grew up together, and I'm still friends with our team today. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Awesome.
So we weren't really coworkers. We were more like family.
Yeah. So, and when did you move to the Chicago area?
So I moved to Chicago in June of 1998. That's whenever I moved.
Okay.
Yeah. I had wanted to stay with Penny's and was interviewing for management positions. My boss, who was a great boss at Penny's, trained me how to do the job, and nothing was panning out. And then I had a friend who worked at Art and Science in Evanston, and she said, hey, I'm moving, and they're looking for somebody to take over my clientele because our colorist we have in training isn't ready yet, and you've got experience. I think you can do it. So I interviewed and had to do a couple models and sweated like crazy and was nervous. And
it's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was a little crazy, especially with Lawrence Haggerty, who was the owner at the time. He stood there by the doorway with his leg crossed, watching me the whole time, and I was like, just sweat pouring off of me. He's just such a great leader in our industry.
Yeah.
And so I got hired.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When I was doing a final exam and I was being watched by people, I remember thinking to myself, if I ever have to grade other people, I will automatically think they're probably at least a third better than this because they're so nervous.
Right. That's
It's
true.
so
That's
awkward.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. When someone's kind of, also if someone's listening to you do a consultation, there's too much going on in your brain. Like
Right.
you're thinking
What
about,
am I going to forget?
or what their perception is of what you said, or versus like concentrating on what the person really wants, or, it's a lot. So, and I met you at Beauty and Balance.
Right.
And and it was departmentalized, but will you remind me, at JCPenney, were you doing everything, or were you
Did everything? Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's just how it was back in that time. Departmentalized was just a thing that only elite salons in big cities did. So, across rural America, most of America, it was everybody did everything. I even did some facials, we did nails, whatever it took.
Yeah.
Because whenever you have a small town and only like 100 clients, you've got to do as many services as you can for those people.
Right. So when you started working at a departmentalized salon, in those salons, were you missing other parts? Even like, because I know you've always been a color specialist as long as I've known you.
Right. Color definitely was one of my strong points. I had a great teacher in school. To backtrack a little bit on that, there was one day this woman walked in. I was staying after school, getting some extra hours in, and she had white roots like 2 inches and greenish ends that she had colored herself. You know how like box color on white hair can pick up green and like mossy. And I had to figure out how to fix it. And my teacher, a little Filipino lady, Bobby Kenny, she says with her smoker's voice, "Come on, sweetie, I know you know the answer. I know." And she pulled it out of me what it was. And, we know now that's easy. So 2 separate formulas for it. But at the time I was like, oh, this is really intricate. But that's when I realized that, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
I get it. Plus, in high school, I took 4 years of art. So I was very strong with color wheel and color theory and things like that. So that was very helpful as well.
Okay, strange question. I just kind of thought of this. What is your favorite color line, or do you have more than one?
I probably have more than one.
Okay.
Currently, I'm using Goldwell in my salon. I have used Schwarzkopf in the past. Lovely product. I also use a new one that is endorsed by Beth Minardi called Beauty Fusion by Artego. It's a somewhat organic line. It's 99% natural products in it. I like that a lot. I like the creativity of it. What else have I used? Gosh. I've used so many.
Have you
it's
used
hard to say.
the R in color?
I did use the R color. I can't quite wrap my head around it because I think it's probably because of my age and how I'm taught, because we're used to working with more pure shades, where these apparently are blended tones. So I feel like it's good definitely for a beginner or a very modern colorist, because you don't have to necessarily put brown and create the shade altogether. It's
Right.
just there. And I just have a hard time wrapping my head around that.
Yeah. Just anyone who's listening who's not a hair colorist, it is really interesting how the different color brands some of them are very transparent about how much of each color is in a tube. And some, like it's their proprietary blend almost. Like you don't know how much of XYZ. Like they'll tell you if it covers gray or not, but it's not. Well, for example, I like Cune because it is very transparent, where there's like a decimal. So like a 5.35 is like 50% 5, 30% 3, and 20% 5. Yeah, but I mean, it's very clear. You know how like in Goldwell, they don't necessarily tell you, like if you're out of something, you can't necessarily make it because you don't know what it's made of.
You actually can.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay, tell me.
This is why I have saved years and years and years of color wheels.
Oh.
Because where it is on the color wheel, on the Goldwell color wheel, is kind of, you can figure out what's in it if you look at where it sits. Because it's not just like, if a red, it's not just straight like 5, 6, 7, 8 red. It's leaning each one way or the other. Wherever it's at in the red pie, it can tell you.
Well, and what's also really interesting is the different kinds of shades you get of brown if you're using, because these complementary colors will cancel each other out.
Right.
So red and green mixed together will be a slightly different shade of brown, even though like the darkness is the same, than if you're mixing yellow and purple.
I used to do an exercise when
Oh, you
I
did?
was teaching the color program in art and science,
Mm-hmm.
and I would get Play-Doh, and I would give them all equal parts of red, yellow, and blue, and
Mm.
tell in our theory class, okay, I want you to make brown, and then we would all compare each other's browns and see what they got, and see
Yeah.
how they looked different. Some were warmer, some were cooler. It was really interesting to see what their eye perceived as being brown.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so what did you love about working in a commission salon, or did you not really love it after a while?
Working in a commission salon, I didn't really know any different. It was what it was,
Yeah, it's the way it goes.
And I liked the fact of having coworkers to bounce things off of. I liked the team part of it. That was always great. Definitely, depending on paycheck, that was nice. Not to have to worry because we were fed clients like crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
One thought I had was it is kind of nice to, like, when you're done with work, to be totally done.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is that. Yeah, you can just walk out and be done.
Yeah. Because there were several years that I wasn't sure that I wanted to keep doing. I think it's a very good place to start, but I felt like I had sort of outgrown it, or like not wanting any sort of training wheels on me.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, do I want to pay attention to taxes, paperwork, the scheduling, everything is taken care of for you. So when you leave the salon at the end of the day, you don't have to think about anything.
That is a very, very nice part of it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, as much as I don't like doing that stuff, I think of it as a trade-off. Like, well, I have all this freedom and I have what I have now, and
Yeah.
is it worth it? Yeah, it is. Plus, I've learned different avenues to where I am not a good bookkeeper and I don't like doing it. So I found a bookkeeper.
Right.
And I use those services for that
Yeah.
stuff. And same for like taxes and payroll. I use a payroll company that just does it.
Yeah.
So I really don't have that much of that stuff to do anymore.
Yeah. I would say the hardest part, and I don't have a salon like Jeff does. I just have a salon suite for myself. So I know it's even more involved when you have payroll and employees. The hardest part of it by far is getting it set up.
A commission salon?
Or no, any salon.
Sure.
Having a business.
Yeah.
Like all the things that I enjoyed not having to deal with when I worked in a commission salon. I don't mind it now. It's not that difficult to maintain. It's just setting it up that can be really stressful.
I think at Salon Lofts where we started, I think they were very helpful with that, especially the market leader we had the same person.
Yeah.
So she had a lot of input and advice on things like that. So
yeah. And I will say I was a little worried going into a salon suite, not having the camaraderie or, people to bounce ideas off of and whatnot. But I'm just really lucky where I ended up because there's so many, there's like 20, 25 rooms. So right. 25 different LLCs, and almost all of them are people. They're like in the same stage of their career. And I love them. And when someone runs out of something, they just like ask very nicely and we all share, and it's kind of nice.
I would say at our location in Evanston, that's definitely how it was. When we moved out, it was kind of starting to get not so much like that because there was younger people coming in. But when it was the original group of us, because it was new when I went in, we were all like that because we were all new to this and we were all sharing ideas and just figuring it out all together.
Yeah.
And then as turnover started to happen, then people started getting a little less social, and like younger stylists were coming in and they were fresh out of school and whatnot, and they just would stay in the room all day and not really talk to anybody. But there was still the core group of people that had like what you guys do. We would share things and share ideas, and if you ran out or whatever. Yeah, so I still feel like I have that social aspect of it that I did have in a commission salon. And how long has it been since you opened your salon? Oh gosh, so we opened in October of last year of 23.
All right. Yeah. And your name is Studio 819, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, in Evanston, Illinois, downtown Evanston. Was it really hard organizing that? Because I can't really imagine. Was it a salon space when you got there?
It was.
Oh,
The whole thing was hard to organize because we were looking for space for almost a year. So I had looked at this one first because it was a salon already, but it was kind of small and it was really, really dilapidated.
oh,
And I thought, oh my God, I don't think I can make this work. I went in there and it smelled funky and there was some mold on the wall and
yeah.
there was this odd partition wall that I thought, oh, I don't think I can deal with this. So then I spent some more time and looked at some other places, and rents were super high at the other places. They were too big, they were too small, they were needing more work than this one did.
Mm.
So I kind of circled back around and was thinking, well, how can I make that work? So many a nights I was laying in bed trying to fall asleep thinking, well, what if I lay it out this way? What if I do this? What if we do that? Take out this wall or rearrange this? Can I make this work? Because the location was good. It was close to where we were. It's right by the trains. It has parking upstairs in the parking lot. And it was just perfect. And the rent was reasonable. And I just had to come up with a way to make that space work.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe you had some trouble with like permits, correct?
We had trouble with a lot of things.
Oh
So
gosh.
there was permits with the city. They don't make it easy. So I said what they could use would be like a liaison because as hairstylists, we're just regular people. We're not business people like that. We don't do big business. And a lot of times in places like where I'm at, they're running this like a corporate mall per se.
Hmm.
And this lease that I have is like 30 pages long, and I had no idea what was in that. And then with the permits, the website isn't very detailed. I think they expect you to have like a corporate person who would be like the architect doing all this, where
Oh,
we didn't really need that because we weren't changing a whole lot. So I
yeah.
didn't have that. So I had to kind of figure it all out on my own.
Mm.
And unfortunately, our contractor did help us with some of the stuff, but it was not an easy task 'cause there's lots of things you have to file, and then there's all these little extras that they're like, well, we need this and we need drawings for that. And I was like, but we're not changing that, but we still need drawings. Okay,
Oh gosh.
yes. So
Was that like the hardest part of opening your salon was like getting it set up to start it?
actually, no. The
Oh.
hardest was once we were going, then there was inspections, and then they kept changing the rules. Each inspector had their own idea of how things should be. Like, for instance, we have some can lighting that was existing, and we added some new. Well, the new they put in up to code, and then the existing, the inspector came back and made them put that up to code too. So stuff
Mm.
like that. And then even at the final, like we were getting our certificate of occupancy, they looked up in the ceiling and they said, well, you really should have sprinklers up between the concrete ceiling and the drop ceiling. But they said, but I think this is grandfathered in. And I said, you think? What do you mean think? It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to do that, thank God.
Oh, but the stress.
The stress was terrible because we were homeless per se, so we were working in a temporary location at that time. So
Oh
we were
yeah.
actually working at Trio where you used to work.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the owner rented us some space, and we made some nice friends there, and that worked because our
Gotta get
loft.
creative.
You had to, yeah. Like
Jeez.
our loft, we were able to stay until it was rented,
Yeah.
and then once it was rented, we had to leave. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Now, how many chairs are in your salon?
so we have 6.
All right.
We have 5 for stylists. I work out of 2, and then there's 3 other stylists that are there. One is an employee, and the other one is my assistant, who also is working as a stylist 2 days a week right now while she's building. And then 2 chairs are rented to some friends of mine.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then we have a blank chair that nobody really uses. That one, I do offer services for color without a blow dry, so clients can use that to blow dry themselves.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very good. And are you very happy that you've done it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my space is
Awesome.
happy. I love it. It's what I wanted. It's just a nice place to come into work. We have room. We have good music, good light. It's
Excellent.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I remember one thing I remember so much about you is when they were doing some redecorating at the salon we worked at together, how you came up with this idea that we should have some light bulbs cool and some light bulbs warm. Do you still do that?
Somewhat, yeah. Now
Yeah.
that LED technology is much better, we ended up with our stations have lighted mirrors, so they are a cool tone, and our lighting up above, recommendation from our electrician is at 3000 K, I think it was, and it's in a warm white. So it's not like super white, but it's nice and bright. And then I accidentally ordered track lights that were 4000 K. And they're in a warm white as well, but they're a little whiter. So we've kind of got 3 different colors going, and it actually works really well.
Good. Yeah.
So it's nice and bright. It's not too warm. It's not too cool. It reads color nicely.
I have never told you this, but I thought of you when I moved into my house here. And in my powder room upstairs, I have 2 warm, 1 cool light.
Yeah, does it work?
Excellent. And I look great.
Yeah. I think as time goes on, the lights, the LED technology has definitely gotten way better.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Just out of curiosity, what kind of bulbs do you put in your house?
We have all LED.
Okay.
In warm.
Okay.
So those, because they're just standard screw-in bulbs, I get the ones that say 60 watt equivalent. I like my house to feel warm and cozy.
Yeah, yeah. Now you are using R&Co for products at your salon.
Yes.
Do you have other lines as well?
A little bit of this and a little bit of that. So R&Co, which stands for Rogan Company, is our main product line. I've had it since I partnered with my coworker Alice when we moved into our double loft and shared it. We decided we needed a product line that was going to be big enough that both of us would be able to use. So we got it, and it worked out really well, and we kept it. So it's been good. They have great education.
They have such pretty packaging.
Their packaging is pretty. There's a story about the packaging. So the picture on the package correlates to what the product is. And then also those photos are all taken by one of the founders who happens to be a hobby photographer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah, so they're all real photos.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, and with R&Co, do you have a Demetra and I filmed an episode talking about product lines and some of the pitfalls of having a salon suite and working on your own and not being able to carry some of them. Is R&Co one of those where you need to have a certain number of people?
No, actually. So I have a specific kind of account because I bought the full line, and they have 3 different tiers that you can buy into. Like I think it was at the time like a $3,009 or a $6,000 and $9,000 investment, and with that you get the rights to say, like how we were just talking earlier about Orbay, with only so many places in a certain radius can have it. Well, a couple months into it, the loft across from my hall got rented, and they called me and they said, "Hey, there's another person who's moving into your building who wants to carry the product. Are you okay with that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's fine. There's plenty of hair to go around, and our clients never intermingle, so it wasn't going to affect me at all."
Yeah.
And her account was a little bit different kind of account. So hers, she did not have to have the full line. She did not have to have that big investment. But the thing is, she only gets 25% commission.
Gotcha.
So that was the difference. So you can be just a single person, not have a huge output of money, and carry it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
nice. I like when they're flexible.
they work with you, definitely.
Yeah.
And also, like, some lines have a minimum purchase per month. I had tried to get Kevin Murphy, actually, and there is a minimum purchase for that. And I said, well, how set in stone is that? Because I thought, well, Kevin Murphy's a great line, so that would be a great fit for us. But apparently it's pretty set in stone that you have to fulfill that amount that they said. And then R&Co has it too, but I said to the salesperson whenever we were talking, I said, how solid is that? And she said, well, it's a suggestion. We would like you to sell this much per month, but if you don't, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
So, bingo, you win.
Yeah. I like that when people can be a little more flexible and just like have common sense about it.
Absolutely.
I had the same experience with my distributor. She called me to ask if I was okay with someone else in my building carrying my product line. And I thought, I mean, I actually, the same as you, don't care at all. But I just thought that was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Okay, couple off the wall questions here for you. What is the weirdest thing a client has asked you for?
Okay, the weirdest thing a client asked me for was, well, this I was working at Art and Science, and I had just taken a class at the Goldwell Academy, and I had all these great foil patterns that I had learned and things like that. And this woman, her name was Cheryl, and she was very adventuresome. And she was from East Coast, so she had a heavy, heavy Boston accent. Like, for instance, whenever I was done styling her hair, I'd say, "Okay, Cheryl, how do you want your hair blow dried?" And she'd say, "I want it to look like trailer trash," just like that. And anyway, I said, "Okay, what do you want to do, Cheryl?" She goes, "Can you do Argyle or plaid?" Just like that. I'm like, Cheryl, I don't think I can get foil placement in to make those crisscrosses like those would do. So it's probably not going to happen.
Mm.
So that was probably one of the craziest things.
You do a little freehand paint on top of it.
Right. Well, she had shoulder length hair, so I don't even know how that would have showed if I could have done it.
Well, was she being funny or was she being serious?
She always wanted something different. Like I never really had to keep a note card on her because she wanted something different. So I think she was actually somewhat serious and not about that.
Or maybe she was really curious if you could even do it.
Right. I mean,
she's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool if you had a buzz cut. You could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would you say is the best part of being a hairstylist?
Oh, the best part? Gosh, there's so much of it, like we make people feel good. We make people feel happy and pretty. And, it's just really cool. And, people think that, oh, we're just hairstylists and we can't make a good living. We actually can. We can make a really nice living. So that's really cool. I get to go to work in a fun place. I listen to music that's good all day long. I get to dress really cool. And there's so many parts of it that are great.
Yeah. If you weren't a hairstylist, what would your career be?
Pole dancer?
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Let's see. I think, at one time I had looked at the Art Institute, and my mom at the time, I think it was like $5,000 a year. And she's like, we cannot afford that. So that was out. And then I thought, well, I think it'd be fun to be an architect because I love architecture, but I'm not that good at math. So, and I didn't really like math like that. So that was off the table too. I think an architect would have been fun.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're about out of time. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being a guest on Just Hear Me Out. And listeners, you can find Jeff at studio819evanston.com if you want to reach out, make appointments. And I'll put that URL in the show notes. So we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe or follow. And please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Lastly, follow us on social media for clips of past and future episodes. All our accounts are listed in the show notes below. Thanks so much for listening.